Let's get into A6. Sixth assignment for this course is going to be building a rock, paper, scissors game. I like rock, paper, scissors because you have to tell the computer which thing beats which thing. It's not like a number guessing game where I can say it's either equal or not equal inherently. I have to tell it that rock beats scissors and scissors beat paper and paper beats rock. It's also an interesting problem because there are three choices versus three choices. So it gives you a lot more logic and thinking that you have to do. We want to do a player versus the computer. And we want to win, the first to win 2 rounds is the winner. So you have to figure out how to keep score of how many rounds you've played. I want you to use at least one function. There are opportunities to use many more than that to keep the code simple and streamlined. And then, of course, after the winner is declared, after somebody wins 2 rounds, the computer should ask if the user wants to play another game. Now, when thinking about functions, in this case, I'm not going to tell you which things need functions, but I will give you some ways to think about it. One of the ways I like to think about it is who are the actors or the entities in this game, right? You have the computer player, you have the human player, and you have to have some kind of a judge to decide who wins. Each one of those entities has a job to do, right? With player one, we're getting their guess, we're cleaning up their input. So how do you want them to input rock, paper, or scissors? Should it be all capitals? Should it be all lowercase? Should it just be an R? Do you want to be flexible and allow them to enter different things? What happens if they enter something that's not rock, paper, or scissors? How are you going to make sure that you get their guess? So this function, this could be a function for player one, like getting the player input and cleaning it up. The computer player, there's no input from the human there, but the computer player is sending rock, paper, or scissors. Okay, so we need to figure out how do we get the computer to send rock, paper, or scissors. And I'm gonna give you a little cheat code on that one because there is in the random module, you can choose a random value from a list. So I'm going to show you how to do that because that's easier. You could have it choose a random integer 1, 2, or 3, right? And then you could correspond that to rock, paper, or scissors. That's a way to do it too. But I'll show you a more direct way. And then the judge. The judge needs to say, okay, human says this, computer says this, who won? So it needs to take the 2 parameters of the human guess and the computer's guess and spit out who won. So those are 3 potential functions right there. What I don't want you to do is make a rock, paper, scissors game and then put the whole thing inside of a function. That is not useful. So what I want to do is I want to show you sort of in the form of a solution to the sandbox 6, some ways that we can do this. Okay, so we had in sandbox 6, we had to import the random. So we have what are some jobs that need to happen here in 6? We need to get computer guess or number. We need to get a human guess. We need to see if guesses match. Okay, so those are some 3. If we're looking at like what are the big jobs in this program, these are the things that we're doing. So I could make each one of these its own function just for the sake of making a function. So I start with this. There is my computer guess. So now when I run that, it'll send me back what the computer's doing. I'll just say I could get the human guess. Get human guess. And on that one, I'm going to int guess equals input. What is your guess? And I want to make that an int. Return int guess. Okay, so I'm sticking to parameters here. Let's see if guesses match. I'm going to do int c computer guess, int human guess as parameters, and I'm going to say if int computer guess equals int human guess, then print you guess right. Else print you guessed wrong. Okay, and I'm going to return true or false from this. Return true and return false. Okay, I'm going to make this, I know it's a little hard to see, but I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so we can get a little more code on the screen, which I feel like is useful in this case because it's a little bit longer program. Okay, so I've got some stuff going on here. So let's start the game. Start the game. I'm going to set int guess number to 0 while int guess number is less than 3. And we're going to, first thing is we're going to get the computer guess. And we're going to go int c. And we're going to go int h equals get human guess. And we're going to say if guesses match, int c and int h. So if those two things match, then we are going to print u1. And we're going to go break else print if let's do, we got to increment that int guess number, right? Plus equals 1. And then if int guess number equals 3, then we're going to print you ran out of turns. I don't need to put a break there because it'll break all on its own. And then at the very end, print, thanks for playing my game. Okay, so I want to show you something. That's my main program. Okay, so I took some of these things that were a little bit longer and I reduced them to single functions. So now I can look at my whole program. I can check my program flow out and it's right here. That's the whole thing. I could have made it shorter, honestly, but that's my whole thing. And I know if I have an error, let's say in this function, I know where that is because I can see it right here and I can fix that error. So this is how it makes debugging programs much easier. If I have a problem with the human guess, it's right here. So now when I play the game, oops, guess what I did? I got the computer guess inside my while loop. Nobody's ever going to guess it right then. All right, there we go. What is your guess? 2, guessed wrong. 4, guessed wrong. 6, you ran out of turns. Thanks for playing my game. So there we go. That is how I went from here, where I was talking about who are the players, who are the actors in this scene, and what do they do? And I took these for the guessing game and made them into their own functions. Again, I did not have to use global here. Didn't cheat. But I used that to make the main part of my program super simple, right? And now I know what it is each time. And if I've named my functions well, it's very readable too. If guesses match, I can see everything that's going on. I can track it. It's very logical. So this is the part of the skill that you're developing in this class is not just learning what different functions mean. It is the skill of seeing how a program can be put together in a logical way that allows you to go back and figure out what's wrong when things are wrong. So again, this is assignment 6. We're going to use functions to make a rock, paper, scissors game. And you want to think about things. This is where we start thinking about things like, what do we do if a user enters the wrong thing? How does the program handle that? What does it do to make sure that before it moves on and says, is the rock better than the scissors? What does it do to make sure that when they put in a rock that it recognizes what it is? Okay, so you might want to think about that. How do you clean up their input? And that could be inside a function where you're cleaning up the input so that every time that function returns something, no matter what the user types, that function is going to hang on to it until they type in the right thing. Okay? I'm going to take one quick look at the method there. I'm going to create a new file so I don't wipe that one out because I feel like somebody's going to want to see that later. Okay, so if I'm creating a function, define get user hand, and I'm not going to put any parameters in there. I'm going to say str hand equals input, what do you pick? Now, right now, they can put anything in there, right? I want them to put something that actually means rock, paper, or scissors. So I might, before that, want to say choose rock, paper, or scissors. That helps a little bit, but I'm not making sure that it's capitalized. I'm not making sure that it's actually one of those three words, right? So there's some more stuff that I want to do here. First of all, I want to maybe do this. And when I do this, what does that imply that I'm asking them to do? What's that? Yeah, instead of typing the whole word, I'm basically hinting that you just type one of those letters. So, first thing I want to do with this is I want to str hand, I want to make it all lowercase, equals str hand dot lower. Boom, all lowercase. So now I know, hopefully, that I have R, P, or S lowercase, or rock, paper, scissors all lowercase. I'm also going to strip. You can daisy chain methods like this. You can just chain them up. So dot lower, dot strip. I'm going to take that white space out of there. Make sure. But I'm still not sure whether they entered RPS or rock, paper, scissors, right? So here's what I would want to do. While true, I'm going to put all this in a loop. And I'm not going to accept their input until they do something useful for me. And so I'm going to say if strHand equals, and it's going to be lowercase, or strHand equals rock. Now I'm going to repeat this a few times because I want one for each thing. Elif Elif. So I'm going to go paper, scissors. Okay, so now I've gotten all of the different possibilities of what's reasonable. So I'm going to do the else, because if they don't type one of those 6 things, R, rock, P, paper, S, scissors, I'm going to assume they didn't do it right. Print, I don't recognize that. Try again. Okay, so if they don't enter one of those things, then it doesn't work. If they do enter those things, I'm going to, well, I'm going to call this RV for return value. strRV equals R. I'm going to send back R for that one, V for that, P for that one, and S. So what I want to send back is RP or S. And then I'm going to break. Out of the loop whenever I get one of those 6 answers. Break. Okay. And then the last thing I want to do is return strRV. Why is it not liking that? There we go. It didn't like it up here because I hadn't defined that variable. So I just put a dummy up there. It wouldn't actually have a problem there because there's not, that's why. So if I pull that way, I don't need that. Now it will work. Because it was worried that if I hit else and it was lined up at that line, it was an indentation issue. Okay. So there is my get user hand. Now this is going to take care of talking to the user, getting their input, cleaning it up, and not letting them move on until they enter something correct. So let's say print get user hand. Okay, so here's my whole program. I define a function. It's a black box. I don't need to look at it anymore because I know what it does. It returns R, P, or S, lowercase, depending on what the user chooses. There's a little plus sign right here. But when you have functions, even like this one here, once you have your functions created, you can just hide them. If they're done right and they're a black box, you don't need to see what's inside it. You just need to know that it's there. These little plus signs right here on the left-hand side, plus and minus, you can hide and show. It's called collapsing that code block. Okay, so let me run this. Oop, not that one. Let's run this one instead. There we go. What do I pick? I can do this any capitalization scheme I want. I can type P. I can type all caps rock, and I can put 8 spaces after it. Still recognizes it. And the minute I say fork, I don't recognize that. Try again. Okay, until I put something that makes sense. It does not leave that function. It will stay here until I get that, because there's a while loop inside there that's not going to let it go until I'm ready. So that is all of this packed into the itty bitty living space of a function, right? So that is when we start to see that functions are actually very powerful, because now in my main program, all I have to say is get user hand. And I know that get user hand is not going to rest until it gets an R, P, or an S out of that user, and then it's going to send it back to my program. Okay? So now what you have to figure out is when you're figuring out who won rock, paper, scissors, remember, if the user, and I know you know how rock, paper, scissors works, but I bet you've never really thought about it in these terms. If the user picks rock, the computer has 3 choices: rock, paper, scissors, right? The user picks paper, the computer has 3 choices: rock, paper, scissors. Same with scissors: rock, paper, scissors. So what we have here is basically an if branch, right? We have branches inside of branches. You ask if your user picks rock, what happens if they pick rock? It's a tie. If this one picks paper, the computer wins. If this one picks scissors, then the player wins. So you have to go through that logic. And if you put all of that in a function, all you have to do is give the function those 2 values, and it spits out who the winner is. It's really nice way to structure things. So start thinking about how you can structure this program. Don't get overwhelmed by the size of it. Think about each function. You can design a function and test just that function. Okay, so I want something that if it gets 2 letters, an R and an S, RPS over here, RPS over here, It tells me who won. That's a great function to start with. Then you can plug that into your code. I want it to start by getting user input. There you go. Done, right? I want to have a main menu function, a get the computer's input function. Oh, I did promise that, didn't I? So let's just take a look at that. I'm going to squish this down. Let's see here. Oops. Let's get this out of the way. And so I'm going to import random. LIS choices. I'm going to make a list variable, which we will talk about very soon. R, P, S. Oops, there it is. Okay, so I'm using square brackets for the R, P, and the S. And str choice equals random. I think it's just random. What is that? Is that what I wanted? No. Give me a second to find that and I'll let you know. But there is a random, I think it's random choice actually. It is. What do you know? That's what it is. Random.choice. str choice, print, str choice. Okay, so this is how you get an RPRS out of the computer. There it is right there. S, every time I do this, it's going to give me a different one. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. My gosh, it's the opposite of what I wanted to do. There we go. Okay, so there's an S, S, R, P. So you can see it's randomly picking from that list. Okay, so that will give you an RP or an S from the computer at a random. And so it's just like randint, except you have to set it up with a list of choices to choose from. And then you have it grab that choice from that piece. That is very much like the randint function that we used in the random module before, except it's pulling from a list rather than a range of numbers. So you can just copy that verbatim and use it in your code. Any questions? Yeah.
So for this, for A6, at least 3 functions basically, right?
At least one function is required. It just cannot be a one function that does the whole thing. I was just demonstrating a few places where you might want to have functions in the program.
So if I were to write the 3 functions, it would be user input, computer input, then basically
The judge. Yeah, that's what I would recommend. I think that's a good, you could do more, you could do less, but I think those 3 make a lot of sense in terms of simplifying the program.
So we basically discovered 2 of the functions, right?
Well, I didn't make that into a function, but sort of. Sort of, yeah. Maybe I made it too easy on you guys. I don't know. We'll see. Any other questions?